Welcome everybody, I'm Brian Walsh, and in this lesson we're going over dimensional analysis. And dimensional analysis is really just a fancy way of saying conversion between units, but it's really important in chemistry, and if you can master this early on, it's going to make your life a whole lot easier down the road.
This problem says an average zombie walks 2 feet per second. If he walks for 30 seconds, how many feet has he gone? Now this might seem really easy, but I'm going to show you how to set this up so you can do these types of problems even when they get more complicated. So we're going to break this problem down, and we're going to start by looking at the information that we've been given. So they told us that our zombie is walking 2 feet per second, so they've given us his speed, and they've also told us that he's been walking for 30 seconds, so they've given us his time. We can see that 30 seconds has just one unit, right? Seconds are the only unit here. And then if we look at 2 feet per second, we can see that it has 2 units, because we have feet and we have seconds. And what that tells us is that 2 feet per second is a conversion factor. Remember, anything that has 2 units is a conversion factor. And the fact that 30 seconds has just one unit tells us that we're going to start our calculation with 30 seconds. So anytime they give you something, give you a value that has just one unit, that's where you're going to start your calculation. So we're going to start our calculation like this, and we put 30 seconds over 1 just to make it easier to see that seconds are in the numerator. Now we don't know what comes next yet, right? We're going to figure that out by looking at what it is we're trying to find. So in this problem they're asking us how many feet has our zombie gone. So what we're trying to find is feet, and that tells us that our last step is going to be to convert seconds to feet. So we're going to use this conversion factor on our last step. It also tells us that our seconds are going to have to cancel, because if this is our last step, feet is what we want. So in order to get feet by itself, these seconds are going to have to cancel. So now we're ready to set up and solve our problem. So when you set up your problem, you want to make sure you set it up so that your units cancel. And this is going to be the most important part about setting up your problem. We know that we want seconds to cancel, and we have seconds on top here, which tells us that we're going to need seconds on bottom here. Remember that if we have the same unit on top and on bottom, then those units will cancel. So here we have seconds on top and seconds on bottom, which means that these units are going to cancel with each other. So these seconds cancel with these seconds, and that's going to leave us with feet. And because feet are what we're looking for, we know that we set up our problem correctly. So we multiply 30 times 2. We can divide by 1, but it's not going to change our answer. And what we get is 60 feet, which is going to be our final answer. So this problem looks a lot like our last one. Our zombie's still walking 2 feet per second, except now they want us to know how many feet he's gone after 5 minutes instead of just 30 seconds. So again, we're going to start by looking at the information that's been given. And our zombie's still walking 2 feet per second, which has 2 units, so this is still a conversion factor. Except now he's walked 5 minutes, and 5 minutes has 1 unit. So that's going to tell us that 5 minutes is going to be where we start our calculation. Now we need to look at what it is we're trying to find. So once again, they've asked us how many feet has he gone. So we're trying to find feet, which tells us that our last step is going to be to convert seconds to feet. It's because we want to go from seconds here to feet here. But before we can convert from seconds to feet, first we have to convert from minutes to seconds, because we've been given minutes, not seconds. So before we can cancel these seconds, we first have to convert from minutes to seconds. We want to set up our problem so that our units cancel. We have minutes on top here, which means we're going to need minutes on bottom here. We know that there's 60 seconds per 1 minute. We have minutes on bottom and minutes on top, so those minutes are going to cancel. So minutes cancel with minutes, leaving us with seconds. Now we can use our conversion factor to convert from seconds to feet. We set this up so that our seconds on bottom will cancel with our seconds on top. So these seconds cancel with these seconds, and what we're left with then is feet. And because feet is what we're looking for, we're ready to calculate. So we multiply 5 times 60 times 2, and again we can divide by 1 if we want to, but it's not going to change anything. And what we find is that after 5 minutes, our zombie has now walked 600 feet. So our zombie's still walking, and he's still only going 2 feet per second. Except now he's been walking for 3 hours, and we want to know how many feet he's gone in those 3 hours. So again, we're going to start by looking at the information we've been given. And this part of the equation, this part of the problem has not changed, right? He's still going 2 feet per second. It's still a conversion factor. except now he's been going for 3 hours. 3 hours has just 1 unit, which means we're going to start our calculation here. And we still want to find how many feet he's gone, so this means that our last step is still going to be to convert seconds to feet, because we want feet, so we're going to go from seconds to feet on our last step. But before we can convert from seconds to feet, we first need to get our units into seconds. So we've been given hours, so we're going to have to convert first from hours to minutes, and then convert those minutes to seconds. And then once we have seconds, we can convert from seconds to feet. So we're going to set our problem up so our units cancel. We have hours on top here, which means we're going to want hours on bottom here. There's 60 minutes per 1 hour. We have hours on bottom and hours on top. So these hours are going to cancel, and we'll be left with minutes. We know that we have 60 seconds per 1 minute. We put minutes on the bottom so they can cancel with the minutes on the top. So these minutes and these minutes cancel, and now we're left with seconds. Now that we have seconds, we can use our conversion factor, and we can convert from seconds to feet. Again, we set this up so our units cancel. So we put seconds on the bottom to cancel with seconds on the top. So our seconds cancel here, and we're left then with feet, and feet is what we're looking for. So we multiply 3 times 60 times 60 times 2. And what we find is that after 3 hours, our zombie has walked 21,600 feet. So in this last example, our zombie's still walking 2 feet per second, and he still walked for 3 hours. But now they want us to know how many miles he's gone. So we can see that the information that we're given is exactly the same as last time. Our zombie's still walking 2 feet per second, which is a conversion factor, and he still walked for 3 hours, which is where we're going to start our calculation. The only difference here is in what we're trying to find. So in this case, we're looking for miles. Since we're trying to find out how many miles he's walked, now this is no longer our last step. Our last step is going to be to convert from feet to miles. So we're still going to use this, but we're going to use this to convert from seconds to feet. And then once we have feet, we're going to convert those feet to miles. But before we can convert from seconds to feet, we first need to convert minutes to seconds. And before that, we need to convert hours to minutes, because we've been given hours. So we're going to take our hours and we're going to convert hours to minutes, convert minutes to seconds, then convert seconds to feet, and finally we can convert feet to miles. So as usual, we're going to set up our problem so that our units cancel. We have hours, and we want to convert hours to minutes, so we're going to convert to minutes here. There's 60 minutes per 1 hour. We put hours on bottom so they cancel with hours on top. So these hours are going to cancel with these hours, and that leaves us with minutes. Now we want to convert from minutes to seconds. So we're going to convert minutes to seconds. So there's 60 seconds per 1 minute. Minutes on bottom are going to cancel with our minutes on top. So these minutes and these minutes cancel, leaving us with seconds. Now we're going to convert from seconds to feet. So now we can use our conversion factor here to go from seconds to feet. We set it up so our seconds on bottom will cancel with our seconds on top. These seconds and these seconds cancel. And now we have feet. And now we can convert our feet to miles. So there are 5,280 feet per 1 mile. Feet on bottom will cancel with our feet on top. And now we're left with miles, which is what we're looking for. So now we can calculate. So we multiply 3 times 60 times 60 times 2 times 1. And what we get is 21,600 miles on top. So if we look across the top here, miles is the only unit that hasn't been canceled, right? So feet, seconds, minutes, hours have all been canceled, but miles haven't, so the miles stay. Next we multiply across the bottom, so 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 5,280. And that gives us 5,280. And we can see that all the units on the bottom have been canceled, so there's no units here. So now we divide 21,600 miles by 5,280. And what we find is that after 3 hours, our zombie has walked 4.1 miles.
If you have any questions about anything, or if you have any feedback that you'd like to give me, please leave me a message. You can leave a comment, or you can email me at chemistrymadeeasy118@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.